Hello YouTube, please like, share, subscribe. I'm going to be on the way shortly. Right, let's hope it doesn't glitch out and not let me progress. Here we go, getting me through walls and stuff. So is this how it's going to be? Am I going to have to start it all again? Yes, it's done it this time. It didn't let me do it last time. That's why I ended the
Another
stream.
old swamp saying went, when dealing with a troubled and troublesome Mulgrim, do not light a fire beneath her, but help her build one from within.
What is this for?
Oh, my neck hearkens the anguished howls of the Mulgrim, and the bitter patter of feet. A somebody and its flame, albeit a small one. 'Tis enough, perhaps. The Mulgrim's precious shards, they must be returned to her lair, to her cauldron. Only then may the cleansing fire burn.
Oh, no, no, no.
The party stands their approach over the mountain vein and vain. We ragdolls observe, we record, and we mimic. Their faces let pass, they do not know what the sordid yearning hides behind. His hands will tell. We put on a mask, we perform, and we put on a show.
Who?
Hello.
Don't eat me! Well, if you're not gonna gobble me up, then can you maybe take me away from here? Please? Somewhere closer to Nobodyville and away from here. Get me out of this neck hole, please. I'm begging you on my bare chin, and I'll pay you for the effort. Handsomely with a beautiful shard from the Mulgrim's cauldron. If you just take me to the outskirts, closer to Nobodyville, I'd find the rest of my way back for sure. If you've nothing better to do, that is. Watch out! She's here! Look out! out! She's here! Watch out!
Hands up! Ready! Work with your boots, take with your hand! Full of fire! The fire is ours! Take the charge! Take the fire!
Good evening. Or is it morning or afternoon? Hard to tell without a sun, isn't it? No, it is most certainly night. Or moonbirds hooting wouldn't make sense at all. Speaking of sense, will you help an old bird find some in this story? Fire up these dusty neurons in the right order, and you will receive a present, a little gift, yes. Bring the fire to the story. Ended when the violent somebodies invaded the valley. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. The battle ended with a great, gruesome beheading. And as the heads roll, the time of the Mogrim begins anew. Once upon a time, the Mogrims lived in peace. The valley was taken. Peace ended. The battle ended with a great, gruesome beheading. Once upon a time. Do try again. Peace ended when the violent somebodies invaded the valley. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. And as the heads roll, the time of the Mogrim begins anew. As the heads roll, the time of the Mogrim begins. Once upon a time, the Mogrims lived in peace. Once upon a time, the Mogrims lived in. The battle ended. Peace ended with a. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. Once upon a time, the Mogrims lived in peace. The battle ended with a great, gruesome beheading. Once upon a time, the Mogrims lived in peace.
Now the option's going to find out what it says. This game is so glitchy. Once again halting my progress. Can I restart?
Ended with the violent somebodies invaded the valley. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. And as the heads roll, the time of the Volgrim begins anew. Once upon a time, the Volgrims lived in peace. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. As the heads roll, the time of the Volgrim begins anew. And as the heads roll, the time of the Volgrim begins anew. Peace ended with the violent somebodies invaded the valley. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. Ended with the violent somebodies invaded the valley. Didn't make no sense again. Once upon a time, the Volgrims lived in peace. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of peace ended with the violent somebodies invaded the valley. Peace ended with the violent somebodies invaded the valley. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. And As the heads roll, the time of the Milgram begins, and you... Once upon a time, the Milgrams lived in peace. Peace ended when the violent somebodies invaded the valley. And as the heads roll, the time of the Milgram begins, and you... The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. I'm growing impatient and hungry. Try a different order.
Take me back to Nobodyville, please. I can't...
Once upon a time, the Milgrams lived in peace. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. Peace ended when the violent somebodies invaded the valley. Once upon a time, the Milgrams lived in peace. Peace ended when the violent somebodies invaded the valley. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. And as the heads roll, the time of the Milgram begins, and you... Edible. The story needs to be just right. Once upon a time, the Milgrams lived in peace. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. And the heads roll, the time of the Mogrim begins anew. Peace ended when the violent sun bodies invaded the valley. Didn't make no sense again.
Take me back to...
Once upon a time, the Mogrims lived in peace. And as the heads roll, the time of the Mogrim begins anew. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. Peace ended when the violent sun bodies invaded the valley. That's not the way the story blows. Once upon a time, the Mogrims lived in... And as the heads roll, the time of the Mogrim begins anew. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intrigue. The battle ended with a great, gruesome beheading. That's not the way the story blows. Once upon a time, the Mogrims lived in peace. The battle ended with a great, gruesome beheading. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. Peace ended when the violent sun bodies invaded the valley. The battle ended with a great, gruesome beheading. Didn't make no sense again. And as the heads roll, the time of the Mogrim begins anew. Once upon a time, the Mogrims lived in peace. Peace ended when the violent somebodies invaded the valley. Peace ended when the violent somebodies invaded the valley. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. The valley was taken, but then began the battle of the bodies. Intriguing. The battle ended with a great, gruesome beheading. For time immemorial, the Mogrims had lived in the valley in peace, sharing good eatings and howlings around their fire, which they had inherited from the skies. In the violent somebodies, they hunted the Mogrims for sport and took their fire for themselves. But the somebodies knew not what they were dealing with, for as soon as they held the fire in their grubby hands, they began to fight one another with it. To save themselves from themselves, the cunning heads turned on their bodies and organized a great beheading. And so it was that somebodies became nobodies, and the bodies were exiled. A time of peace would ensue, or so the headlings thought. The last living Mogrim had been biding her time, and saw now an opportunity to return and take bloody vengeance upon the heads, who were now left defenseless without their bodies. The time of the Mogrim begins anew. A storied meal indeed. Moonbird thanks you for feeding her and proudly upholds the promise. A gift. A shard from the Mogrim's own cauldron. It looked so shiny in the moonlight. Moonbird simply had to take it. For now, she'll see you in the light.
Phew, thanks for saving my neck. And I think I have a reward for you. A real treasure.
Sweet progression.
There you go. One of the 3 missing shards from the Mulgrim's cauldron. Yeah, I stole it. Oh, I thought I could maybe buy me some kind of ticket away from, well, everything. Start anew, you know? A good head on a pair of healthy, strong shoulders. Eyes on the horizon. Gosh, the horizon. Do you know I haven't seen it once since I lost my body? I really do miss my body. It's a real shame when you think about it, you know? The things that we do to ourselves, to one another. What we did to her, kind. All in the name of some sort of control. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I guess I'm sad. Sad and sorry. Hey, thanks. You're a great listener. You know that? Just take care of that shard now. And maybe put it back where it belongs and... yeah. Goodbye.
The ragdoll's whisper of one shard kept by the dark itself. Another was stolen by the greedy moonbird up in the hilltops. The last one, perhaps the cowardly head knows. The heads betrayed us bodies, but not before we had betrayed ourselves. Fire in fist. The shards of fire. They must be restored to the cave. We hunted the Mulgrims, took their fire, and with it, we set ourselves ablaze. The shards of that very fire must be returned to the Mulgrim's lair. Somebody find the shards, mend the cauldron. Otherwise, we and thou art forever doomed to madness, to be fettered to the clay and mud. The ragdoll's whisper of one shard kept by the dark itself. Another was stolen by the greedy moonbird up in the hilltops. The last one, perhaps the cowardly head knows.
It's easy to lose one's head when everything you love is either gone, broken, or dead. Yet another forgotten swamp saying. She'd never been much for company until she had met the other one. He had shimmering scales, an appetite for life, and carried a faint scent of rotting leaves she found irresistible. Oh, how they used to laugh at the distant stars, bitterly together.
The howls of the Mulgrim have gone with the wind, and our headache settled into gentle throbbing. Thank you, somebody, for you have not only graciously saved our necks, but also demonstrated the value of brain mass and heart blob working together. Could it be time for the bodies to return? We must convene on this matter, and you and your wandering flame must now leave through our gates and keep on walking the midnight walk to Moon Mountain. Moon Mountain! Here you go, somebody. This key will open the town gates. Blech. The mountain once again beckons, and the call is answered. Very well. And take good care of your flame. The dark itself is hungry.
The last time I saw my body, I was sawing myself out of it. The headless to me of the bunkers for bodies, but I don't trust you or the flesh twigs one bit.
I think this body business will be good for us heads in the long run.
Body's mine. You gotta be a somebody. If not, you can become a nobody. And then be a somebody again. I've had enough. First it was the big Mulgrim hunt, and then they forced us out into that make-a-forgiven swamp. I hate hiking, and then when we had nothing left to hunt, we started fighting each other, and then Mr. Mayor gets this grand idea that we should chop our own heads off and banish our bodies. How does that even scientifically work? I've had enough of civilization.
long detour, huh? Hope the heads didn't give you too much trouble. At least your head looks attached to its shoulders and your friend's is, well, burning. So do not despair. Should you once again lose your way along the midnight walk, you're probably meant to.
We Malgrims have a special relationship with fire. We do not cook over it. We do not shed tales around it. We care not for its warmth. Ours is a different connection entirely. Fire is our window to truth and into the world beyond clay, to which we must return. We are noble beings, bringers of bugs, slime, and mushrooms to help decompose the old and to bring about the new. We are the caretakers of this world, and woe be to those who seek to end us, for they seek to end themselves.
Dreadful was the day when the sun vanished. The waters dried up, birds went quiet, and the dark itself seeped unchecked into the work table as the cold, chewed paper moon rose over the mountain. The night that followed would be long as the midnight walk. The burnt one was there. You do not remember, but you feel it, don't you? You are reborn when need arises. This night, Potboy needs you, and Moon Mountain beckons. Its call irresistible. A storm is coming. The soothsayers have spoken.
She came back one day from a long while of rock-picking under the And so she woke with a yawn, so big it could have devoured the sun. She had slept for just about a decade. A decent nap by Merkel's standards. She smacked her dry lips, looking forward to what the new dawn had to offer as she left her lair and went out into the cool night. Wait a minute, she exclaimed. Night? Where was the sun? Where its warm rays should have been there was only the vast night sky, not a star on its face. Well, the Merkel mumbled softly to herself, winter was late, so now the sun must be late too. Proud over her sound logic, she went back to her lair to take a complimentary nap. The Merkel had taken a nap that had lasted 2 decades. Now that counts as oversleeping even by Merkel standards. She had awoken anxiously this time, feeling misplaced and confused. The confusion grew further into panic when she was greeted not by the sun's life-giving caress, but once again by the silently mocking night sky. I had a flame once. It was beautiful and bright. It spread its light, brought me and my neighbors warmth. and it was always hungry. No matter how much I fed it, it kept on growing and growing. And one day it got big enough to start walking the long road. I didn't guide it. It dragged me along for the ride. I followed it for a long, long time. Would the road ever end? What was the point of the walk? Things kind of spiraled. Road took me on dangerous detours that didn't make sense. Before I knew it, my flame began to fade. Until it... Well, I don't think I was meant to carry this flame. There once was a freezing cat who was looking for shelter when she came across a dark cave. "Step into my abode," offered the dark. "It will warm you if you surrender your wants."
The story goes of a nameless maker who pulled creative spark from the dark itself without giving it fire. With his dark source, he managed to create swaths of land in no time. The dark itself waited for a gift of fire, but the maker just kept on taking. Too busy building his crooked fences and watchtowers, kept his fire locked away in his chest. One day, he decided to create the first people to inhabit and appreciate his creation. It was then that the dark corrupted the maker's clay, guided his greedy hands into creating not people, but the first of the fire-eating crawlers. And they crawled into this world absolutely starving.
Wow. Fallen. Just run. I'll run this time. Okay. Run. Run. Run some more.
The dark's eyes were much too big and watchful for the cat's liking. She went on to find warmth somewhere else.
Oh shit. We're gonna die. Come here. Okay. Go. Go. Oh no. Oh, I didn't time that properly. Yeah.
Then the cat saw it. Rooftops piercing the sky. Approaching the town, she was greeted by a crone. Come, kitty, kitty, you must be tired. Sit in my lap. Share your soft fur, and I shall warm you for a spell.
Hello, Mother. The well said to give it a match, so you and I could talk again. I hope this works, because that was my last one, and well, it's cold now. But it doesn't matter. We can finally talk after everything. So, how are you? Do they have fire where you are? Not the hellish kind, I hope. Is Father there too? I think you should talk to him again. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I know he loves you still. I love you. Still. I can't feel my hands. I can't feel anything.
Welcome to Coal Haven, newcomer. Good to see a flame in these parts again. I'll be your guide tonight. This furnace here used to run on coal and fire, don't you know? But a thief stole all our matches, wasted them in greed, you see. Now the ghost has come to smite the wicked and punish the thief who killed us. Well, I guess that's it. That's a tour on the house. There's a bone right there in the snow. There ain't no place for a bone. Your flame could bring back warmth to our graves. May the worms in our bellies dance again. There's a bone right there in the snow. No. That ain't no place. Something's changing. That furnace was the soul of the city. We used to worship it, us coal miners did. Fed it trees and fire like it was a hungry, angry god. This broken body's going nowhere, but yours is. Walk the streets, listen. Just don't believe everything the half-dead say.
The cat didn't like the crone's crude bettings. Her hands tugged at her fur. Now, rest still, the crone said, as she pulled out